Hare Krishna.
Oh, we're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. It's June 28th, 2025. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Chapter 15, text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Ordvamulam Adashakam
Shakam
Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yas Tam Veda Sa Vedavit Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Ordvamula Madashakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Sa Vedavit Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Ordvamula Madashakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Ordvamula Madashakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit
Ordvamulam Adam Sakyam
Ordvamulam Adashakam
Avyayam
Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam
Chandamsi Yasya Parnani
Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Ordvamula Madashakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chantamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Ordvamulam Adasakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Adasaka
Ordvamulam Adashakam
Asvatam Prahor Avyayam
Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam
Si yasya parnani.
Chandamsi yasya parnani.
Astam veda saveda vit.
Yastam veda sa veda vit.
Sri Bhagavan Uvaka
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Purda Mulam Ada Sakam
Urdhva Mulam Adashapam.
Svatam Prabhur Avyayam
Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam.
Chandasmi Yasya Parnani
Chandamsi yasya parnani.
Yastam Veda Saveda Vit
Yastam Veda sa Veda Vit. Anyone online like to lead the chanting?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Urdhva Mula Matashakam
Urdhva Mulam Adashakam.
Ashvatam Prahur Avyayam
Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam.
Chandamsi Yasya Parnani
Chandamsi yasya parnani.
Yastam Veda Savedavit.
Yastam Veda sa Veda Vit. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
Urdhva Mulam,
Urdhva Mulam,
with roots above.
with roots above.
Adha,
Adha,
downwards.
downwards.
Shakam,
Shakam,
branches.
branches.
Ashvatam,
Ashvatam,
banyan tree.
banyan tree.
Prahu,
Prabhu
said,
said,
Avyayam,
Avyayam,
eternal.
eternal.
Chandamsi,
Chandamsi,
Vedic hymns.
Vedic hymns.
Yasya,
Yasa,
of which.
of which.
Parnani,
Parnani,
the leaves.
the leaves.
Ya,
Ya,
anyone.
anyone.
Tam,
Tom,
that.
that,
Veda,
Veda,
knows.
knows.
Saw,
Saw,
he.
he,
Vedavit,
Veda,
the knower of the Vedas.
the knower of the Vedas.
This is Sri Krishna speaking to Arjuna, starting a new chapter. The title of the chapter, The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Translation, the Blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is giving a metaphor, a metaphor. So let's contemplate about it. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. So there's the detachment part. At the same time, the nature of the soul is to be attached. Goes on, be detached, be detached. Well, here's the thing. You're going to be attached, and so am I. Our choice is to be attached to matter or spirit. To the extent that we choose attachment to devotional service to Krishna, that's attachment to spirit, then we're free. Then we're free from then we're free from the lower modes of material energy. As Srila Prabhupada writes, the more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more one is entrapped by material miseries. So directing our propensity for attachment to spirit, and that's the science of bhakti, then we're free from material miseries. It's a very dynamic, joyful attachment. The nature of the soul is to be attached. Okay. So the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entity's activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward, but there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as the tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahma to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the five gross elements, Panchamahabhuta, then the 10 senses, Dasendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world. If Brahma is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees. And the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord. And the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen, but the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world. Om Anjanatirmirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitams Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person, text 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ordvamulam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahur Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavit. The blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Hare Krishna. Okay, so so this is it's an analogy, a brilliant analogy. I say without reservation. And okay, so it's okay, a tree with its roots down, its branches up. Or how's that? Oh, if we're on we're standing on a lake or a river, on the other side there's a big banyan tree in the reflection. Okay, so that's the reflection. It's the same. It's the same essential analogy of the shadow. We read like Socrates and Plato. They have this the cave and the shadow. It's a similar analogy. Okay, so okay. So this is very important, not just an abstract intellectualizing. So just like from a shadow or from a reflection of a tree or the shadow of a building, or if a person standing, we have the shadow. From the shadow, we don't get any tangible experience of what the actual tree is like. What's the taste of the fruits and the texture? We don't get any experience. But from the shadow, just the fact that there's a shadow can give us, if we're thinking about it, gives us a clear indication. The real tree must exist. The real building, the real person must exist. Okay. And so now there are many philosophies and poets and philosophers, and it's pretty common. It's kind of garden variety realization that this is all illusion. The whole material world, it's illusion. Remember the 1970s, there was one rock and roll band, The Grand Illusion, and this is all a grand illusion. And so it's like a garden variety. It's like, okay, yeah, true, okay, and so the reflection of the tree, it's an illusion. Just like, let's say it's a banyan tree, so it would be a fig. So say I reach into the water to get the fig. There's nothing there. There's no substance there. There's no substance. All right. So that's important. That's important, to connect with reality. It's all ephemeral. It's all illusion. It's all a world of names and like that. Okay. Right. Now, what's distinctive here in the path of bhakti, Bhagavad Gita? What's distinctive? And Prabhupada's giving an example, an explanation from geometry. It's like, okay, yeah, so that's 180 degrees of the circle. It's illusion. But a circle has 360 degrees. Yeah, circle is 360 degrees. So there's this whole other part where there is a real banyan tree. Okay, and that's where pretty much only in bhakti, what's that real banyan tree? Like there are real leaves, real leaves, real twigs, real trunk, real fruits. Yeah. Mm. 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 So the title of the chapter, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. And so bhakti means we're directing our unavoidable propensity for attachment, for service, to engage the senses. We're in Rishi Kena Rishi Kesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. We're directing our propensities to act and serve to please Krishna's senses. Krishna's the Yomam Eva Masamudo. We're to please Krishna's senses. That's what it means, bhakti, rather than pleasing the senses of this body under the illusion that I am this body, Shvaroham, Ham Bhogistaroham, Balavan Sukhi, and under the illusion that I'll be happy, satisfied, peaceful, and powerful if I just satisfy the gross senses or the subtle material senses. Subtle material senses are like mind, intelligence, false ego, desire for adoration, distinction, popularity, compliments, profit. That's like subtle material senses. And then there's the overt. So we turn our attention with a devotional attitude to please Krishna's senses. Immediately, we're in the real tree. Immediately, we're in the real tree. Then we're no longer in the shadow world. So it's very practically important. To whatever extent we're in the reflection, we're in the shadow world. To whatever extent we're there, then we're giving ourselves no chance for true happiness. The best we can do there, to use some terms we use in Safitov, terms we use in the book, relationships that work, the best we can do is some nice level of survival. Nice level of survival. And that's different, that's distinct than the positive bliss of the soul. Just now we engaged in kirtan. Anasaktaya disha yatam yunjata nibandha Krishna samte yuktam vairagam yujate. Yukta is the same word as yoga. It means, so this bhakti process, Krishna consciousness, it's not about denying the senses, because that'll always be a recipe for frustration. So naturally, it's our nature. We want to dance. We want to sing. We want to eat. We want to communicate. We want to relate. But spiritual life means none of that. Okay. Because, yeah, so material relating, material communicating, material working, material money management, yeah, it's a source of misery. Material romance, material friendship, in quotes, source of misery. So out of frustration, so spiritual life must mean none of that. But then we won't be satisfied because we have senses. And as we read this morning before japa, we read an excerpt from Srila Prabhupada that he gives the example of putting an iron rod in fire. So it's iron. It's iron. But if we keep it in the fire, red hot, blue hot, white hot, then it acts as fire. So similarly, we engage our senses in the service of the source and master of the senses, Sri Krishna. Then we say, oh, it's just material. Then we're spiritualizing our senses. We're spiritualizing our tongue. So I feel very blessed and grateful. So like, okay, this is just some material terrazzo floor, material bricks. No, because we're using this space for kirtan, for discussing Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita. This becomes spiritual terrazzo floor, spiritual bricks. This is what it means, not in a sentimental way. This is what it means to spiritualize the material world. That's what it means. So survival, Srila Prabhupada gives the, maybe it's a rather ghastly example, but like in former times, maybe still today in some places, like if there was a criminal, and then they would punish him by tying him to a chair and dunking him under water. Terrible, terrible. But before he would die, they would lift him up. And, gasping for breath. Oh, then down again. Then up. So then the up, gasping for, oh, this is happiness. This is happiness. Whoa, I can breathe. It's not happiness. It's relief from terrible misery. Important distinction. So material happiness is where it's just like, I'm less tormented than last year. I guess this is happiness. Or just like, I'm miserable, I'm doing terrible, I'm feeling so lousy, this and that. Oh, but if I look at my neighbor, she's suffering worse than me. Huh, I guess that's pretty good. I guess I'm happy. Let's celebrate. Now, okay, so it's all relative. So that's the shadow. That's the reflected tree. There's no actual life of the soul there. So the real tree, that's the actual bliss of the soul. That's an ever that's an ever increasing bliss and happiness that's not dependent on anything external. That's real security. That's real security. And it's not theoretical, just theory-free. Some of us have been here for about 4 hours. Some of us have been here for 2 hours, engaging the senses. And we say it's a different quality of dancing. It's a different quality of sound vibration. It's a different quality of relating, because Krishna is in the center. That's bhakti. And that gives the Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sanjakapanai Shravanati Shuddhachite Karye Uda. That blissful love of Krishna is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. And it's naturally awakened through this process of hearing and chanting. Sutta Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidyanta Stoya Bhadrini Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in the heart of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, personally cleanses the heart from material desire. For the devotee who has developed an attraction to hear his messages, like in Bhagavad Gita, and those messages are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And so this is an analogy. It's an analogy, and we're meant to see, where am I? Saint Francis said, we're searching for what is searching. Meaning, we're searching in doing this and having that and acquiring that. Maybe it's a car or a certain bank balance, or maybe it's a particular level of respect in a community. Where am I searching externally? Because whatever we're seeking in our doing and having, we're always invested in an experience of love, giving and receiving love, power, peace, security, vibrancy, satisfaction, fulfillment. Okay, and those qualities are intrinsic to the self, and those qualities are awakened when we turn towards Krishna in an attitude of bhakti, in an attitude of devotion. Otherwise, it's all shadow. Otherwise, it's all reflected shadow. Another example given by Srila Prabhupada. That like if there's an animal, could be a human or any animal in the desert, very hot in the desert, and so the animal sees, so there's an oasis where there's water 100 yards away. So it runs, but turns out to be a mirage. Turns out to be a mirage. Oh, but there's the oasis just 50 yards there. So it runs there. Oh, that's a mirage. And eventually the animal dies in the desert because there's no water. But there is water. It's just not in the desert. It's not in desert life. There is, water does exist. Water does exist. That's what Krishna's communicating to us here. And so, so just like, yes, like these programs, it's just like 4 or 5, 6 hours of intensive bhakti, including the prasadam. The prasadam, that's dovetailing the natural propensity for wanting to enjoy food. Okay, then we're by honoring Krishna prasadam, then we're pleasing Krishna's senses, and we feel, oh, this is a different experience of relationship with nourishment. So all aspects of to whatever extent we want, to whatever extent we choose, the guidance is here, how to dovetail our life to connect with the real banyan tree. And whatever our idam pumpasas tapasas shrutasya suktasya sviktasya chabudi dataya aditru torta kavibirni rupito yadutama shloka gunanu varnanam utama shloka. That's a name of Krishna. It means he who's glorified by the choicest Vedic verses. Just like we have a special visitor, okay, and we want to give them the choicest attention and prepare everything in the choicest way, in the finest way. And so what that verse says is like, yeah, some science, chemistry, art, sociology, all fields of human endeavor, politics, economics, physics, psychology, all fields of human endeavor. For spiritual life, they're not meant to be rejected. It's all Krishna's energy. So our opportunity is to cultivate expertise, cultivate knowledge of the art and science of how to engage all aspects of our life in connecting with the actual banyan tree. And that requires inspiration, and usually some measure of desperation. Like, I'm tired of shadow life. Yeah, I'm tired. It's probably lifetimes, billions of lifetimes. I've tried shadow life this way and that way. There's no water in the desert. I want the real water. So it's available. And the term yoga is so well known these days. Probably when I was born in 1960, people in the West probably never even heard of yoga. So, over the decades, everyone's heard of yoga. Like the English word yoke comes from the Sanskrit yoga. So in its ultimate, this is yoga. Okay. Yoga means the self turning towards itself in self-awareness and turning towards the Supreme Person, Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, in an attitude of devotion. It's good to know what actual yoga is from the sources. I've seen so many types of yoga. I've seen chocolate yoga. Goat yoga. Yeah. Okay. So many things. So okay. So why are we messing around with the yoga to the Supreme Person? We could be doing chocolate yoga. Yeah. What are we doing here? So this is key. This is key. That just like the second aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasa Yata, means that what exists in the effect must exist in the source. So you're a person. We have activities, and we like to relate and engage in friendship and adventures, and we have activities. Say, oh, but the absolute, the supreme, all-powerful, omniscient, the source of everything, could just be this kind of light bulb that shines light. How can we deny personhood to the Supreme? So again, this is unique to Bhakti. Just be earlier in the program, about an hour and a half ago, we played the Brahma Samhita. There's just like if in the shadow there's music, there must be music in the real banyan tree. If in the shadow there's romance, there must be real romance in the banyan tree. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Asmat. That's the original romance. There's friendship, there's adventure, there's dance, there's song, there's flutes. How can you say, like, we like to play instruments, but God can't do that. Let's start making lists of things that God can't do. The all-powerful, but he certainly couldn't, like, go out of the boundaries of my narrow postage stamp limitations. No, anything in the shadow exists in its vibrant form, not the shadow form, in the original banyan tree. The first text from Brahma Samhita, the first of the 27 texts that end with the Govinda Madi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. The first goes, Chintamani Prakarasat Masu Kaupavriksha Laksha Viteshu Surabhira Vipalayantim Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Pusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built of spiritual gems and served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis and gopis and goddesses of fortune. So tending the cows, why? Because he likes to. It's all pastime. We have things, whatever. Well, I like to play golf. I like to hike in the woods. We have things we like to do. Okay. Earlier in the program, Lakshmi Priya is leading us in that song. The song goes right to the soul. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. That's Krishna's pastimes with Srimati Radharani in the forest of Vrindavan. Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna. He is wandering on the banks of the Yamuna River. Okay. Oh, spiritual life just means it's like it's a void, or it's just the white light. How boring. Yeah, and so to enter into the real banyan tree, it requires voluntarily engaging in some austerity to let go of our attachment to the reflection, or attachment to the shadow. So we're studying Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhva Moolam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahor Avyayam Chandam Si Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavit. The Blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your presence and for giving your hearing power to Bhagavad Gita. I welcome at this time, if anyone would like to share any comments, ask any questions, share any realizations, at this time, comments or questions. Well, since there's a lull, so I'll just briefly mention. So another cornerstone of Bhakti, we have a lot of honoring celebration of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he brought Krishna consciousness to the West. So we use the term spiritual master. So it's just like, okay, say if we want to get really good at tennis, we'll approach someone who's a real master at tennis. Okay. If we want to get really good at playing the piano, we'll approach a virtuoso. So Srila Prabhupada, his whole life is dedicated to serving Krishna. And someone may Someone said, well, so what? What's so good about that? I mean, we can have different opinions about it, but anyone who hears about Prabhupada's activities and reads his writings, there's no doubt, like, there's nothing there except Krishna. Just I've spent tens of thousands of hours and read hundreds of thousands of pages of Srila Prabhupada. It's just, there's nothing there except he wants to give us Krishna. So if our goal is bhakti to Krishna, then he's a master at it. He's a master at it. So that's what it means, spiritual master. And Krishna says to Arjuna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sa evayam maya teda yogo gopta paratana bhaktosi me sakacheti rasyam etadutamam. Krishna speaking to Arjuna, who's like an alpha warrior of the age. He's known as a warrior. He's like a king. He's not known as like the greatest scholar. So it could be asked, why is Krishna speaking to Arjuna? And Krishna says, I'm speaking this transcendental mystery to you because you're my devotee and my friend. And here we get Bhagavad Gita completely in the spirit of Arjuna. Srila Prabhupada, devotee and friend of Krishna. So he's giving us Bhagavad Gita completely aligned with the spirit and content of the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Anandini.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your class. Oh, hello, Hare Krishna.
Hi.
Hare Krishna, Anandini. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm inspired by, everything you shared, and especially this time, the banyan tree. I used to have a really hard time to connect with this analogy.
Yeah.
And now I'm beginning to understand more. And I just looked up what is a banyan tree? What does a banyan tree look like for the first time? And it's actually I'm very impressed by the size of the tree.
Yeah.
And also that, like the roots, they grow from each branch.
Yeah.
So it's not the roots are hidden and then there's the trunk and the branches. So from each branch, the roots actually grow down to the ground. And so I was thinking it's no accident Krishna chose the banyan tree. If you spoke about how everything we do, we are searching for love.
Yeah.
And I just putting that together with the banyan tree, I'm understanding that, well, whatever we do, we can actually find love when we connect it to Krishna. Like from each branch. We're climbing around on this tree from one branch to the other in our material activities, searching for love. And in each activity, on each branch, there is actually a root going down. So there is a possibility to find love when we connect it to Krishna. So I wanted to share that.
Thanks very much, Anandini. Thanks for sharing. And I know you're familiar with like this analogy for maybe almost 20 years or so. And so you got some fresh realization here. Yeah. Okay. So the banyan tree, right? The ashvatam. Yeah. I mean, aspects of it, like, yeah, I've heard that like banyan trees have root systems spread more than a mile. Okay. Spread more than a mile. Yeah. And they can get like just really extensive and enormous. And we just read the first verse of this chapter. So as the verses go on, it talks about all sorts of networks, just like, okay, we have our internet work. Okay. And so it talks about how in the shadow tree, one can get lost in this network and that network. Okay. Practically predicting the future. Okay. So, and they didn't, as far as you know, I had like, but we can click here, we can click, and even the Vedas, the Veda did Trigunya Vishya Veda, Nishtaguna Tavarjuna, Nirdvanva, Nityasattvisto, Tejanva, Yogakshimam. Okay. Krishna says that Krishna says the Vedas mainly deal with the modes of material nature, rise above them. right? Otherwise, we just get all entangled, just like, we click here, click there. What did I just do for 10 hours? Like that. And so to pierce through that, we engage in bhakti. And I like how you bring that. And then we connect with the real tree. And the real tree, wherever we're at in life, dovetail it with bhakti, dovetail it with service to Krishna, dovetail it with serving Srila Prabhupada. We please Prabhupada, we're pleasing Krishna. We please Srila Prabhupada, we're pleasing Krishna. Wherever we're at, dovetail it with bhakti. And I like how you got to the essence of love. And I like in Safatov and coaching counseling and seminars, we often get into the nuances and subtleties of the emotion and the thoughts, and there's a place for all that complexity. And sometimes there's a place for simply reducing that. We can reduce that everything we're doing or thinking, it's an attempt to give and receive love. We can reduce it to that. It's an attempt to give and receive love. And so this is all about love, but not in a sentimental way. Because here's the thing: Bhagavad Gita starts, Dihinosmi yatadehe komaram yovanam jara tatadehantara praptir dirastacharnamuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So, so just like that, the chair or the cushion, it's not giving and receiving love because it's not a conscious entity. It's the spirit soul that inhabits the body, not the dead molecules, that give and receive love. So to the extent that we're thinking we're just this mass of blood and flesh and bone and bile, to the extent we're thinking we're this dead stuff, and you're that, then how much possibility is there for self-esteem and love and joy and meaning if we're under the illusion that we're just this random collection of subatomic particles. So first, to understand who we are as intrinsically loving and lovable beings, the spirit soul. And otherwise, it's just kind of empty sentimental talk. Love, this, that. Okay. And then, because the spirit soul is intrinsically loving. And at the same time, even if we know that theoretically, if we're not engaged with bhakti, we're still going to entangle ourselves in the source of anxiety. Bayam dvitini binivesha tasyat. We're still going to entangle ourselves in trying to get satisfied through material relationships, material sense gratification. And then we awaken to bhakti through the grace of a pure devotee spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada. Then our natural love awakens. Then we're able to actually give and receive love and create the world we want. Anandini.
Yeah, thank you for that. And well, what came to me with actually seeing the banyan tree is that I can sometimes go to, oh, I don't want to engage in this activity. Like I don't want to work, or I don't want to pay taxes, or I don't want to whatever.
Yeah.
And it just confirms what Krishna tells Arjuna earlier on in Bhagavad Gita, like, yeah, we should do our work.
Yeah.
And it's not, no, I'll stop doing my work and then I can be spiritual. It's no, like do the work, do all the duties. And from each duty, from each branch, there is the root, which goes, from my understanding, that the banyan tree, the roots go back to the spiritual world.
Yes.
So from each point, each activity, wherever we are in our life, any given moment, we can connect to the root.
Thanks for that. Dovetail it with bhakti and do our work. Arjuna's work was fighting the battle. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanush mara yudhyacha mayarpita mano budir mameveshyasi samshya. So Krishna says to Arjuna, think of me, meditate on me, and fight. Simultaneously. Well, is it one or the other? Simultaneously. So Arjuna's spiritual life, Arjuna's bhakti, pick up your bow and fight, pick up your foe. So Arjuna's a true historical personality. And we can also consider, it metaphorically. Not that it's just a mythology. It's real history. And we consider, okay, what's my battle of Kurukshetra? Where am I resistant to pick up my bow and fight? Because in the name of, where am I trying to use escapism in the name of being spiritual? Like that. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
Some stuff that's coming up for me when we talk about, we like to eat,
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah.
Sing. I grew up Baptist and then we turned Methodist and now my father's Catholic, so we've been through the
Okay.
whole thing. But just thinking back on how that was like suppressed, I just remember this really rigid red carpet and pews and somebody up there yelling, and it was very suppressive. And so, you know, I know still people who, I have friends and family who still practice that sort of thing. And so how do we, I feel myself sometimes judging it or being like, I've got the real path, and I think I do. I'm sure they think they do. My family definitely thinks they do, even though they've traded around a lot. So how do I, it's difficult to respect that when we've experienced this.
Yeah.
This bliss just that we had even just this morning, to go to even be, not to be in that setting. And occasionally I do, you know, go to church or go to Catholic mass or something with my dad or something occasionally, not really too much anymore, but I just choose not to. But because there's a little church next to us in Melrose, I go over there a lot and serve and volunteer, and then I do some actual work for them. And it just always feels so dry and unattractive to me. Although I've met some really nice neighbors and all, but it was only so close I can get. And I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but if I turn the situation around, they're always asking me to come over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like they see that bliss.
Yeah.
And when I walk in the room, I can feel that they're like, what's she on kind of thing, because there's a happiness, a glow that I'm
your neighbors there in Melrose.
Yeah, my neighbors in Melrose. But I'm also just thinking back of my whole life growing up in Alabama, you know, you can imagine. So I get judgmental, I can get sarcastic. If this is true, the absolute truth, which it is for me, and if it is absolute truth, we're accepting that, then how do I respect, not judge, interact with, and like I'm having a hard time, like I just want to draw a line in the sand and just like y'all be over here and I'll be over here. But that's just not reality. We're out there in the world, right? Doing our work.
Yeah.
So I'm just noticing it as you were talking today, I kind of scrolled back in my head Rolodex and went like, well, look at all these situations. Then I felt sort of a stickiness of how I just bring on the bhakti really strong because I can't let my head go there when I'm with those friends and neighbors in that church. And I feel like Krishna empowers me to take my bhakti over there, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's like, you know, it's part of your service.
Yeah.
It's part of your service.
It's down to the pastor asking me to house sit for her when she's out of town. Like they keep adding more onto my plate, services that I can do over there. And yet, like for example, when I eat over there, sometimes they have a dinner on Wednesday nights, and they ask me to teach art and Sunday school to the kids on Wednesday nights, which they put me, you know, I mean, I love this, but they put me in the back room with the door shut so I can teach whatever I want back there. So they're getting bhakti, but they're the people who run the church. It's a small church, it's only 58 people, so it's a small little old church. But when we come out for the food part, it's not prasadam. So it's so dry and tasteless too. I just get so like, but I also am trying to build relationships and
Yeah.
show them bhakti. So there's this whole like back and forth of how to not judge it and think that I'm better than them. And then also keep my bhakti intact and interchange with them and move from table to table and situation to situation so that my light can shine in this neighborhood church and with my neighbors, because that's where Krishna's put us, right? In Milra. So I'm just struggling with that, finding that place where I feel solidly like I know how to handle this and coming out of judgment or superiority or righteousness or whatever, which is where I kind of default to. Because they have this in their heart too. Eat, dance, sing.
Yeah.
It's not uncovered as much, right? It's like so we've got this truth that's just so feels so blissful. And then so it is my job to spread the truth, right?
It's your job to share.
Yeah.
It's like
And
it's
to
part of your
be-
service to share.
We do have like be there. Don't because it's easy out there to kind of isolate and go, I'll just shut all you guys out because it's just so wonderful in this acre that we have. We don't I don't have to do that, but I do that sometimes. I recluse out there because it's so inside the house. If you shut the door, it's like you're in Vrindavan. It's so beautiful. And then, but we go out there. I have to earn a living, and I have neighbors, and I have to spread this light, right? So how do we get to that place of going, well, they've got this wrong. They're not doing this right, and how can they claim that their heart's connected to God and that they're spiritual people when they bring the life out of everything that's beautiful and bhakti is not over there. Yeah, that's like, I'm just struggling with it lately. I feel myself being snarky and I don't like what it looks like. I hope they don't feel that energy. I erase it before I walk in the room, but when I leave, I always kind of think, ugh,
I appreciate your honest and humble, authentic sharing, Lakshmi Priya. I mean, there's a few things coming to me that I'll share. Before I share, would you be willing to chant the humility verse?
Trinada Pisani China Kaura Pisa Hishvina Amanina Manadena Kirtania Sadahari. More tolerant than a tree. Not needing to be right and accepting others as they are, and more humble than a straw on the street, and chanting the holy names 24/7.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Lakshmi. We have a history with that verse going back many years. It's a foundational verse in Bhakti. It's the third verse of the Shikshastakam from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chinada Pisanitina Tvevasishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadari. The word kirtan is in that verse, and it talks about doing kirtan. How much? Only 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but only 365 days a year. Doing kirtan always. So to do kirtan always, there's four other things before Chinada to think, to view oneself genuinely, not to artificially pretend, to genuinely view oneself as lower than the straw on the street, to be more tolerant than a tree, to demand or be attached to no respect for oneself, and ready to offer all respect to others. And I like where you went with that, and to not be coming from being right. There's a place for philosophical analysis. Let's take Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. He gives mathematics example. There's 2 + 2 is 4. In first grade, 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, then let's say in graduate school, you have integral calculus, calculating the slope of the tangent and the area under the curve. All right. So let's say someone is a math teacher, and her life is about sharing the truth about mathematics. Her life is about meeting people where they're at and from wherever they're at, encouraging them to deepen their love and inspiration for mathematics. So if she's speaking to the grad student, she's going to talk about differential equations, tensors. If she's speaking to the first grader, 2 plus 2 is 4. And she's just, her joy is just like sharing math from wherever people are at. It's not about, you are so low. Okay, now, we can objectively analyze the calculus. It includes 2 plus 2 is 4 in the multiplication tables. It includes that. It is higher mathematics. It's like, yeah, we can analyze, we can analyze philosophically, okay, and then personally in our heart, the math teacher is just like, oh, here's a second grader. Okay, now we're going to learn multiplication, and it's not coming from being right, or I know so much more than you. It's just so similarly, we can like humility means to know our position, know our role, know our service. When Arjuna wanted to go to the forest to be peaceful, he was being arrogant. His humility was picking up his bow and fighting. So your battlefield is Melrose, for example. And so yeah, so to know our service and then do our service, and then, like, if I'm absorbed in, like, how can I share this knowledge of math? How can I share these principles of Bhagavad Gita with heart? To the extent that I'm absorbed there, there's no room for superiority. There's just maybe room for, oh, I wish I was more sincere to do my service. And to the extent that I have other agendas other than simply my service of sharing math, sharing bhakti, to the extent I have other agendas, like I want to look good and be right and avoid pain, and I want to feed different grungies. And then that's the shadow. That's the shadow world. So okay, and that's it. So, like, because I know, like, there's as far as I'm aware, in my lifetime and 64 years in this body, yeah, the most by far, without like a close second, the most complete, thorough, exhaustive, detailed, nuanced, subtle exposition of the science of self-realization and love of God is given in these Bhakti literatures coming down through the six Goswamis and Srila Prabhupada. And if someone says, oh no, there's something more complete over here, show it to me. But this is the most complete. That doesn't mean, now at the same time, I know for sure but now the essence of what Jesus taught is Bhagavad Gita. It's bhakti. Love God with all your heart, all your soul. But it's like beginner's mathematics. Not that Jesus was a beginner, but he's like this master mathematician, and his service is kind of to give some first grade knowledge. So we can appreciate that. And of course, so much of what's in the name of Jesus is not representing him. So much of what's in the name of Prabhupada, even after 50 years, is not representing him. And so, and so we can appreciate, and my service is to endeavor to empathically meet people where they're at, and from whenever they're at, through my words and example, inspire them to grow. And then then humility is just like saying, wow, I'm so far away of the full commitment to that mission that I'd like to be. And then as far as this, because respect, it's just like, wow, Krishna is in their heart as super soul. Okay, what's Krishna's mood towards them? Friendly, patient, encouraging them, encouraging us. Right? Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Krishna is our best friend. How much am I rejecting Krishna, rejecting Prabhupada, acting in ways that are just gross and vile and so self-sabotaging? And then it just like, yeah, just turning my back. But then Krishna's with us day after day, and Krishna's with every one of those neighbors in Melrose. Krishna's with right next to the spirit soul inside the body of the cockroach and the squirrel, just patiently through the sojourn of the spirit soul in the material world. So like we get, okay, what's Krishna's level of patience? What's Srila Prabhupada's level of patience? Patience, humility, dedication. So those are some principles that come to heart and mind.
I know about those principles. I theoretically know about those principles, and they're growing in me, but it seems like difficult. I'm also thinking, like, in regards to this discussion, the African American black churches or whatever that in Alabama when I grew up, they had all the dancing and singing and
Yeah.
the prasadam type mood
Right.
was so different, so attractive. So how does everyone extract such different paths out of this holy text? Like, it's so bizarre. But looking at the variety of offerings, and then there's no doubt I was supposed to be here since the first time I walked in the store and I heard Prabhupada chanting on your computer. I felt that opening in that sense of I've been here before, and I knew that this was my path. And it's been in all these years of trying to figure out what that means to me and get on it and stay on it is another discussion. But just maybe had I gone there or walked by that one of those African American churches or something that was more, because everything I experienced just was so dry and tasteless and so top down or whatever. I'm just always amazed at just driving to Gainesville, how many churches there are on 39th Avenue, just all they're dotted all the way from Melrose to I-75. And it just always makes me feel like, well, can't people just get along? And there's got to be some shared knowledge here. And it's frustrating. And so I keep getting put in these situations where the people that I get close to in Melrose have a pretty decently strong spiritual path. And they're not interested in bhakti, but they like what I represent in bhakti. And they'll ask about those things and they'll be around us and they'll come over there and so forth. But they're kind of on their path. And so I have to mingle, I get to mingle with them and share Krishna consciousness with them. And I do really boldly.
Well,
It's
it does sound like Srila Prabhupada and Krishna has brought you into their lives to awaken their natural interest in bhakti.
Yeah. I'm just like looking at that comparison, the way you said it today, it was like, it's natural for us to. So how does it feel when you don't have that and when you're told not to do that? And that's not spiritual, that's not what Jesus would do, where they come from. It's gotta feel like so pushed, or at least that's how it felt for me, pushed down and not natural. And then when we have the kirtan going or we've got the temple room alive with activity, I've noticed some people they have to walk out or go in the kitchen or something because they don't know what to do with that. So I know I'm always feeling their discomfort. The ones that choose to do that, most of them come in, but anyway, I hear you. Humility, humbleness, checking in with my own stuff, chant 24/7. Look at where I'm at, accepting where they're at. That's my job.
I see Bhakti Rosa has a comment.
Thank you so much for this discussion. This is bringing up so much for me. I think 20 dots, so bear with me a second. In consideration of interpersonal relationships, very specifically of the romantic variety, there's some statistic of abandonment of partnership for whenever one person falls ill is like statistically higher. If the woman falls ill, the man will leave. I don't know. But so I've always wondered, what does it take for a person to remain present with another who's suffering their human existence? And it's humility. To be fully present with a person, because humility is we're going through something that's innately human. It's shameful. but it's part of this process. And I mean, like, it might be situational, it could be no fault of your own character, whatever. So taking that concept, I know people who host group activities around like meditation and community, and I've been part of that. And what I see is that people go off, right? Like, they get their bit of oomph or nourishment and they go do their own thing, they go running. And then there's the people who stay. And they're usually, in the same mode. They come and they're trapped in and they come over and over. And I was thinking about that the other day. If I desire to have growthful programs in my own home, what it is to be present with people who may come for 20 years and they're in the same spot. How can you not be frustrated, right? Like, how can you just be with them? And I was genuinely concerned. And I thought to myself, the answer is knowing your place. In that moment, this is service, this is what I'm offering. And then if my desire is for nourishment, I have my teachers, I have my association. That's where I go and I get the strength. So I can be there and I can do that service.
Like making a distinction, where you're receiving association and where your service is to give association.
And then just now during this, it made me realize something that I feel pretty humble about. I've thought to myself, like, I see that within this community. People have shared with me how they used to come here all the time, and then maybe they don't anymore. And I thought to myself, that's bizarre. Like, why would you stop? But it's because you take it and you run and you got your own like momentum. And in humility, I feel like I will always be here. I'm gonna be that 20-year person that's gonna be back. David's gonna be like, oh boy. That's me. Bigger stuff.
Well, I'm halfway there, Melissa. I'm halfway there. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. This year you're coming you're more than a decade, and now you're giving association. Yeah, I appreciate very much the discussion. Myself, as some of you know my history, back at Stamadas Prabhu, who now lives in High Springs, but back in late 70s, early 80s, for 3 years, I just came and took prasad, and I wasn't chanting, I wasn't doing any service. I was just eating the food. And I thought, I'm really taking advantage of them eating so much food. But it was Krishna's trick. Prabhupada said, prasad's our secret weapon. So, we probably have all had, those who've been like so patient with us. So we get to give that. We get to give that. And also just, so that's it. And patience, association, and then naturally. And I appreciate that distinction, Rosa, where it's my service here to give association, where it's my service to receive association. And when we're clear in our role and position, then it's always energizing. Otherwise, we develop expectations that get disappointed. On the mathematics analogy, so objectively, there is higher mathematics and lower. And there are like spiritual systems that give more complete knowledge of the absolute and relatively less complete knowledge. Now, someone might be like in a community or in a path where it's relatively less complete knowledge. It doesn't mean that in their heart they're less advanced in purity than someone who might be in a more complete knowledge community. I know for myself, I've encountered, I've lived with Muslims and in the Middle East, in Arab Christian villages, Arab Muslim villages, and so like there's so the body of knowledge of the absolute and the self is not near as developed as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just objectively true. At the same time, like I'm wishing I had their purity of heart, that the pure devotion they have for Jesus. I wish I had that for Srila Prabhupada. So I just want to make that distinction too. Just because, due to no credit of my own, if Srila Prabhupada found me in this lifetime in such a complete, thorough body of self-realization and God consciousness, that doesn't mean that I'm on this advanced level, and someone might have exposure to the pure teachings of Jesus and be so much more further along on the path of purity. And as far as part of what you shared, Lakshmi Priya, in every in every spiritual line, we'll find three basic distinctions. We'll tend to find a be good and go to heaven path. We find that in Christianity, Judaism, it's there in Buddhism. It's big in the Vedas. It's referred to in this Bhagavad Gita a lot. Be good and go to heaven. It's there in Christianity, but it's not the ultimate goal. Then we'll find a Jnani path, maybe a mysticism path. The Jnanis will tend to be like, oh, what is all this jumping up and down and singing and dancing? No, real spiritual life is kind of like we'll find like the Jnani path, and that they won't be so much into the African American churches and the hallelujah sort of stuff. And then there'll be the bhakti path. There'll be, so like we can see all threads, all strains in the teachings of Muhammad, the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of Buddha, and certainly in the Vedas. And just like through Srila Prabhupada's teachings, I get, that's how all the dots connect. And bhakti, true bhakti, is the ultimate goal. And so this is the connection. It's not just some hodgepodge of paths. And so Krishna, God, as an expert teacher, meets his children where we're at. And some are inclined not so much to give my heart, some are inclined to analysis. Okay, we'll meet you there. And eventually that'll lead to bhakti if you're sincere. It's not just me saying that. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmananante Gyanavan Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudulabha. One through the analyticals, Sankhya path. If they're sincere, they'll come to pure bhakti. If one's on the be good and go to heaven and enjoy path, okay, it's kind of like dangling a carrot, and then eventually that'll lead to bhakti too if we do it according to regulations. I'll just mention in a few moments we'll close for this class. I'm going to host morning program tomorrow. Tomorrow, Sunday morning, Mother Lakshmi Priya will lead class and discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. Just wanted to say that for those who are here.
That's okay.
Bhagavad Gita ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for being with us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I was gonna say, but